You gonna watch the Barbie movie? I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, I probably will. I have to. Okay, she's live now. She says, "There it is. We can discuss this with Keri. She liked the Barbie movie. Hey, Keri.
Hey, how are
What's
you?
up, everyone? This is Keri. Hit the follow button on her thing if you haven't already. They were just asking me. Oh wait, just a second. Actually, just a second.
Oh, hey, Death Row Last Meals. How are you?
So, Keri, they were just asking me if I'm gonna go see the new Barbie movie, and I said, yeah, probably. Thoughts on that? You gonna go?
Do I look like I see Barbie movies?
Yeah, I know, but
Is there something about my vibe
I
that gives
know,
you
but
Barbie?
it's like I gotta see what the fuck it's all about. Like, isn't it supposed to be like? Isn't it supposed to be kind of dark, or is that just bullshit?
Oh, I don't know. Honestly, I haven't looked at it at all. I
That's
mean,
smart. That makes you. Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. I honestly, I'll go see it, but I mean, I've been watching Ryan Gosling since that dude was on Breaker High. Do you never know that show, Breaker High?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, that's some Canadian shit right there. That is old school Canadiana right there. Guys, give me 2 seconds. Keri, you go ahead and just tell them who you are, and you're gonna see my screen go off for a sec, but I'm just connecting my headphones so the sound quality's better. But
Okay.
this is Keri. Keri, tell them who you are.
I am a reporter at the LA Times. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like my tats. I have more on my leg, but it'd be weird to show you. But anyways, I'm a reporter at the LA Times. I cover the sheriff's department and the jails. That's the main part of my beat. So the sheriff's department here is notorious for having gangs within the department, like gangs of deputies. And I have some videos posted about that on my page, but we will talk about some updates on efforts to eradicate gangs within the sheriff's department. I've also done a lot of coverage of prisons, so I do some still about that, although that was more my last job. And I've also been doing a lot of reporting on fentanyl in Mexico and fake drugs in Mexico. So yeah, those are some of the, I don't know, those are some of the things I post about and some of the incredibly depressing things that we can talk about.
I was gonna say, yeah, some of the light, kind of, fluffy topics,
Dude,
like.
seriously though, I realized that like my current job covering the jails, the sheriff's department, like I'm talking to people who have like loved ones that got killed in jail all the time. Like I talk to grieving parents multiple times a week. And I realized this is actually still far less depressing than my last job, because my last job I was mostly covering prisons. So just everybody is desperate and there's more deaths and death row. And I didn't realize until like this week what an incredible, I was just sort of thinking about like differences between now and like a year ago. And this sounds so stupid and like I should have of course realized that, but it's like such a mental relief to not be talking to people multiple times a week who are getting ready to be murdered by the state, you know?
Yeah,
It's really
that's
obvious that would be mentally draining, but I didn't realize how much until I stopped doing it, you know? Or stopped doing it
not.
as much.
Is there something in particular that they all seem to? Is there a sense of like what's their demeanors like at that point? Is there a kind of begrudging acceptance to what's happening to them, or are they pissed off? Are they just defeated? I guess it probably ranges, but
It ranges a lot. Some people, which are called volunteers, waive their appeals and volunteer for execution. That's about 10% of people who are executed, waived all their appeals, so they weren't fighting it in the end.
right.
And then there's also, I think a lot of people are sort of fighting for either innocence or just commutation, clemency, up until pretty close to the end. But last year, was that last year? Yeah, last year in the fall, one of the guys that I talked to the most, when he got executed, that was one of the sort of hardest changes in someone's demeanor to witness, because he was a very religious guy, and I'm not religious, but like
Yeah.
witnessing the way in which that consoled him and gave him like a sense of meaning, I mean, that seemed very meaningful to him, and he seemed to be a very changed man from who he'd been at the time of the crime. And
Yeah,
watching him give up hope, and he never admitted it, but it felt like he lost faith in God at the end, and like watching him lose that.
that's sad.
Uh,
It's
and
heartbreaking.
he went from talking about like hoping that he had done enough to try to, make up for what he'd done wrong, and that he put out enough good in the world that he could, still go to heaven in the end. And then at the end, he started talking about how he just hoped for blackness, that he was just tired of all these years in solitary and he hoped there was no heaven and that he would just see blackness. And watching someone lose faith on that level is really tough to witness. And unlike everyone else that I'd ever dealt with, he had figured out a way to call me. Like, they're not supposed to call reporters, and sometimes they get contraband cell phones, but there's not a ton of them on death row, so that didn't happen a lot. So mostly I would see them when I would visit, but that's only once every like 3 months that you're allowed to visit on death row. And he started doing three-way calls, which under the prior phone system you couldn't like get away with, but he
Right.
did it. So I was talking to him like every day the last 2 weeks before his execution, and that is really difficult.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal. What? Okay, this is a rabbit. We'll get to your. I got your articles. I got everything pulled up right here. But I want to just do one more last little question. Like, what's something you learned from these men and women while you were covering those? Is there anything specific where it kind of made you look at life differently? I know it's a heavy one, but like, I'm curious, kind of what you took from going through. Like, let's be honest, that's straight up traumatic. Like in a lot of ways, you're looking death right in its eyes just through another person's, right? So I mean. Is there anything you lay on us, Keri? Show us the way.
Well, so I think that one of the takeaways for me was that some of the things that you think are the most traumatic or are the things that you fear the most are not. And I feel like when we respect trauma per se, we don't always like respect the most traumatic or the worst parts of it. And like what I mean is, I think people think that the actual execution, either witnessing it or the days going up to it, are the hardest part. But I think that the hardest part about covering or being around that world is actually all the like waves of grief around it. It's like watching the execution itself is a pretty like sanitized process. It's a really morbid, creepy circus almost. Um, but
Circus is a great word for it.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's like it's seeing all the grief, like all the, a lot of these guys have kids. The kids that are like watching their parents be executed sometimes, or knowing that that's happening, and talking to them, watching someone have their last conversation with their parent. Like, it's these sort of it's dealing with the survivors that is a lot more difficult than dealing with the execution itself. And I feel like that sort of mirrors how sometimes when we're thinking about trauma and what's really difficult in life, we're sometimes looking at the wrong thing.
I love what you just said. You either said waves or ripples, but it's actually Stephen King writes a lot about this. A lot of the evil monsters in Stephen King novels feed off the grief, and it does. It ripples through everything. It affects. I mean, you can look at it a lot of ways. It's a Wonderful Life talks about it too, right? One life affects about dozens of others, and it kind of extrapolates, and then the one person's dead, but you got countless others still feeling it, and certain things feed off that negativity can kind of spiral in on itself, man. That hopelessness, whatever. So basically, the more of that in our society, not good, especially when
Have you ever read
it's
have you ever read The Midnight Library?
yeah, I have read that. That's not the short story collection, like all the
No, no,
short
no. That's
stories.
the one
No,
that's
okay.
somebody like tries to kill themselves and they end up in like an in between, which is a library where they can pick all these other lives they would have had
No, okay, I
if they
like
did
that
like
though.
one thing different.
Yeah.
I'm just at the end of it, and it made me think of that because it's a sort of about like not knowing what the ripple effects of your actions will be.
Well, and I mean, in the end too, it's that story you tell about the one fella who kind of found faith, and I mean, I think that it's a beautiful thing, but it's also that fear of death. That's a powerful fucking thing. Like sometimes I'm having those days where I'm like, I don't give a fuck. if I die right now, you know? But it's like, no,
Oh,
I do.
totally.
I'm scared of that shit. I'm scared of that shit, dog. And I think anyone that says there isn't is maybe a little loco or really has, lost all hope. But I still got some hope. So,
Oh, hey, the D&D lawyer guy's here. Hi.
what up, D&D lawyer guy? All right, let's
Yeah.
let's get into it, guys. So we're gonna pump into Keri. I pulled this one up first because it's shocking and appalling. But let's dig into this. You wrote this a couple days ago. Let's go. So I'm just
Yeah.
gonna read out.
So,
I'm gonna read. Can I just read one specific part out that
yeah,
I got?
absolutely. Of course.
Okay, okay. One of the investigations will focus on a Palmdale deputy who punched a woman in the face last year while she was holding her baby. Can we get into that a little bit? I think I
Yeah.
remember that. I remember that because I saw
No,
that
you
and I was
don't.
fuck.
You don't actually. If you think you
Well, so
remember it,
has
it's
it
a different
happened?
one
It's a
because this was
different
not
one.
made public. This was never.
Because there was a cop that punched. I swear to
This is
God,
a
I
different
remember getting
one.
pissed off about it. So this is
This
great.
is a
Yes,
different one
please
because
take the
this was
floor.
not made public until last week. It happened last year, but it was never made public until last week. So,
Wow.
so both of the incidents in question in that headline are in a part of LA County called the Antelope Valley, which is known for having some really fraught relationships with the sheriff's department. Specifically, like there's been a lot of allegations relating to the way their relationship with like Black and Brown communities.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and
Right.
there's a consent decree in some capacity going on there, and I wasn't around to cover what led to that. But anyways, there's been a long history of problems. And about
Yep.
3 or 4 weeks ago, it came out in this sort of national news at the time. There was a woman who started recording a deputy who was arresting a theft suspect in the parking lot of a Winco grocery store. And the deputy, sort of rushed at her when he saw her pull out the phone and threw her to the ground by her neck. And this one went fairly viral at the time because there was bystander footage of it, like someone else recorded it. And then a day or two later, the sheriff's department released the body cam for, transparency. And I think those deputies that were involved were, relieved of duty, but obviously they're not fired as of yet.
Of
And that
course.
was over a theft allegation. And 2, 3 weeks later, because this was last week, the sheriff's department held a press conference to be like, hey, we have this incident we think we should tell you about.
Right.
And they
Yeah.
put out the body, like they voluntarily, preemptively put out the body cam footage. I think probably because they were worried that it would have like gotten leaked out otherwise, and then they would, look bad if they weren't out in front of it. And that was footage of a deputy punching a woman in the face while she was holding her child. But the whole incident was
Some good
so
old
much.
fashioned police work.
But so the
Sorry
whole
to
incident
interrupt.
was so much worse than that, though, because there was a car driving with no headlights on at about midnight, and they pulled the car over, and they claimed they smelled alcohol in the driver's breath, and they saw 4 women in the car, 3 of whom had babies not in car seats, sitting on their laps. And they were near their home or near where they were going, and the deputies decided to take the kids instead of like just driving them home or like
Sure.
ticketing them or any other option. They decided to take the kids, and 2 of the moms started really wailing about like, please don't take my baby, please don't take my baby. And it's really heartbreaking footage to watch. And then in the
Yeah.
process
Sounds super
of
fucked up.
the second woman that they're arresting, she has one arm behind her back and like a deputy's holding her one arm, and she has her baby in her other arm. And it's really, it's not good footage of what they released because she's kind of blocked, but you can see the deputy's hand, like one of the deputy's hands come in from like the top of the screen and like boom, boom. And then you hear her wailing, like he punched her in the head. And you wouldn't necessarily be certain of this if it weren't for the fact that, they then said, yes, this is what happened. And I actually called the deputy's lawyer and talked to him, and he didn't deny that this is what happened either. He said that, they were afraid that the woman was gonna harm them, and so they punched the woman, which is an odd way to
Like,
prevent
listen,
harm to
I
them.
hope this doesn't come out too offensive, but you're a fucking giant fucking pussy, bro. Like, sorry to get mad at that, but it's like, come on. And I mean, like, it's like I think they shot a woman to death a few weeks ago. because she had a hammer in her hand. They rid it, but they emptied the fucking clip on this lady. And it's like, look, I'm just saying, man. The police, and I know there's good cops out there. I got cop friends, I don't like to besmirch everyone. But that whole mentality of the tough guy cop, I think, is dead. These motherfuckers won't run in a building like a school getting shot up, but they'll pound a woman in the face holding her baby. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
gone backwards. It's gone
I do
fucking
think
backwards.
that some of the problems on the forces in LA, or specifically the LA Sheriff's Department, are a little bit different. Like, first of all, you mentioned that woman getting shot with for holding a hammer. That happens all the fucking time in LA. It's so routine that when it happens, it doesn't even make the news. Like, if you go to the LA Sheriff's Department YouTube page, you can watch like dozens and dozens of videos. They post all of their deputy involved shooting videos there. And
Right.
there are many of them in which the person is armed with, something like a knife. In one case, there was a guy that was like had a sword, but he was walking away from deputies and they shot him in the back. And like, I found that shocking. There was one where the guy had only a screwdriver.
Sure.
But it seems like if you sort of look at these holistically, the pattern is that it's a large chunk of these, probably not the majority, but maybe, but a
Like,
large chunk are people, clearly mentally ill people, or people experiencing some sort of mental health crisis, who are
absolutely.
armed with something
Absolutely.
less than a gun, like, a knife, a screwdriver, whatever, and they're just sort of being, gunned down in the street by
Well, it's
deputies.
like, fuck, guys. One pop in the leg. Like, I mean, I guess, look, I'll give fucking like a 5% window of like, it's high adrenaline. It's a crazy situation. I have been attacked in my life, by the way, and I still don't think I would ever pull a gun out. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if I had one, I would have, I guess. You know what I'm saying? But I would think, okay, there's a fucking 110 pound, or even if she's a fucking 130 pound woman, whatever, standing there with a hammer. One in the leg should suffice, no? Like, I don't know. You have to
You
empty the
know,
clip into her fucking torso, but maybe that's harder. Maybe that's easier said than done. I'll
so
give that acknowledgement that maybe I don't understand how crazy it is in the moment, but these people are trained for this shit, dog. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
one of the things that I kind of wonder how much this influences how things go in LA is in the LA Sheriff's Department, everybody has to start in the jail. Like, all of the deputies have to work in the jail for a few years before they work on the street. And I understand that's to keep the jail staffed and all, but it just makes, like, I feel like if the setting in which you train people is a setting in which they are only used to dealing with people who they perceive as being already guilty criminals, like, I just wonder if that sort of translates to when they are out on the street. And then some of them, I think, just sort of by default interact with everyone as if they are, guilty criminals. Obviously,
Right. Right.
people in jail are not all guilty because many of them are being held pre-trial, but I do think there's a perception of like treating them in that way.
Sure.
But I wonder if I always wonder how much that has to do with it.
Absolutely. I am being told by some folks that it is a much harder thing to do, and I can acknowledge that. I can see that, I guess. It's a much smaller target. You might miss it. Okay, I'll give them that. I don't know. It's still fucked. It's still fucked. I mean, I think. Well, I mean, this is an argument that gets butchered and manipulated, but frankly, they're not like, in Canada, I don't know if they do this in the States, they'll send cops to do wellness checks. And the amount of
Oh
percentage
yeah,
of those wellness checks that go sideways because they are not there to deal with like listen, it goes both ways. People, this sounds kind of bad, I guess, but I'll give this tips for all my aspiring criminals out there. Don't ever freak out when a cop, just fucking, if you're calm, they're calm. At least up here in Canada, from what I can tell, they will respond the way you're responding. So I'll give credit to
well,
that.
I
But like,
don't think that's true in LA.
maybe
I think in
not. Well,
LA
I'll say
it literally
your guys
doesn't matter.
whole situation is way fucking different. I've seen the cam
Yeah.
footage of like going up to cars and with the guns on. Even just the fact, like I talked, who was the fella in Farmington? Farmington who answered the door. The cops knocked on his door, right? But they weren't that loud about it. They were at the wrong fucking address. That was the big thing. And the guy came out with his gun and they shot him to death on his front porch. But like, to me,
Um,
the craziest thing that happened like 2 months ago, I want to say. Yeah.
that happens somewhat frequently.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. And I mean, I'm saying I got a lot of friends with guns. We got plenty of guns up here in Canada. None of us would ever answer the door with our gun. That seems so fucked to me. But I guess that's kind of standard issue down there, right? At this point, like what
Well,
has
it depends where you are. I mean,
fair?
it depends on whether it's legal to do that. Like in some states, it's just harder to own a firearm.
Yo, I want to talk to Dustin. Dustin, I can tell you, obviously, I have a family member, or maybe you yourself are a police officer. Yeah, I'm hard on them, man. Just like I'm hard on the governments in power. I'm going to be hard on those that have power. Those motherfuckers have guns. They got the power, man. Don't be, don't fucking sell yourself short. Cops are fucking there to protect the state. They don't give a fuck about you. I'm sorry to give you a harsh truth. And if you are a cop and you deny that, then you've drank the fucking Kool-Aid very well. I'm sorry to come at you, man, but nah, man, I'm highly like. Anyways, I get your point though. I am coming from a very kind of one side of it at the moment, but I think I'm trying to be fair here. But I will always take the side of the people, whether it's a government or a cop. Lie to the cop, get a lawyer, don't pay your taxes in Minecraft allegedly. All right, sorry, Keri, I took the floor there for a second.
Okay, well, I'm not. I would definitely not advocate for not paying your taxes. I have way too many friends in federal prison for that.
This is not this. Keri does not condone the things that this guy says. For the record. All right,
Correct.
Judge? Yeah, correct. All right, so let's see what else was happening here because we just got the tip of the iceberg there. So there's the lady that was punched in the face while holding her baby. What else do we have here?
Oh yeah, and
Uh,
so that story was just about the fact that the FBI is investigating that now, which is interesting.
I love when
But
cops investigate themselves. It's funny how it always seems to be just a misunderstanding though. That's good. I'm sure they will face the full force of justice. I'm sure if we did the same thing and the FBI investigated us, it would be the exact same outcome. Right, Keri?
well, so I don't know. I feel like usually when the feds come in on a you know on a case in another jurisdiction, like I would have some faith that they might take it seriously ish. um doesn't always mean they can really do anything, because I mean, ultimately, there's only so much change they can ever force because it's not, they don't run LA County. Like they can have consent decrees and they can order changes in policy and practice, but whether those things actually happen is ultimately up to local elected officials.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, what else do we got here? Judge blocks county watchdog investigation into sheriff deputy gangs and tattoos. Oh, this is what you talked about at the start. I'm interested to hear about
Yes.
this. Okay, so where are we talking? This is LA County again?
Yes, LA County.
Okay,
Yep. LA Sheriff's Department. So
okay.
the LA Sheriff's Department has for decades had allegations that there are deputy gangs within the department and they are affiliated with specific stations. So like Compton Station, there is the Executioners, and East LA Station, there is the Banditos. And they have sequentially numbered tattoos. The Executioners one looks like it's like a skeleton
I'll pull it up
holding
here in 2 seconds. Just got
holding
a
what appears to
response
be an
here.
AK-47 with a kind of like Nazi style helmet he's wearing. And these are sequentially numbered. There's rumors about what they have to do to, get these tattoos. They do have a voting / decision process for who gets to get them, and then they have inking parties. So you can see the one with all the fire is the Executioners, and the one with the bandolier is the Banditos. Totally,
That's a badass tattoo. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of cool.
honestly though, like when I see some of them, like I just feel like they're paid high, like well into six figures. Like I feel like they could afford a better tattoo. Some of these tattoos, the actual tattoos, are not that well done. Like
They gotta up the budget in the cartel for their tattoo guy. I mean, come on here, guys.
um but in any case, they have, these, gangs within the stations, and there's been allegations about them for decades. There's been, plenty of lawsuits that have come up around them. There's been, some watchdog reports, some academic studies, like they're well documented.
Yeah.
the question is sort of like whether the names are their actual names or just kind of what they're known as, and like which ones are more gang-like and which ones are sort of more club-like, But they do, there's pretty good consensus that they exist. So the Office of Inspector General, which
That's
is
horrific. Like that's horrifying, especially for like a journalist to be like, well, trying to investigate corruption and or whatever, and you're like, there's literally could be allegedly a fucking gang involved in that fucking thing you're trying to
18 of them.
investigate. Oh, 18 of them. Sorry, 18 of them. Yeah, got
Yes.
it.
So
Jesus.
like 18 documented in a study by Loyola Marymount University 2 years ago. So it's usually the 18 number that people go with. But in any case, in order to try to actually identify who all has these tattoos and might be in one of these gangs, the Office of Inspector General, which is like the investigator that does oversight of the sheriff's department, sent letters to 35 deputies who had been previously identified as being suspected executioners or banditos. And, the letter said, we're ordering you to come in and show investigators your tattoos and tell us who else has those tattoos and, other questions like what you have to do to get them, what's the voting process, that kind of stuff. And it wasn't clear initially whether the deputies had to listen because the inspector general is a county hired investigator, but he isn't part of the sheriff's department. Like ultimately only the sheriff can order his deputies what to do. And then the sheriff a few days later sent out a letter saying, no, you have to cooperate or you might get fired. And then in response, the deputies union filed a lawsuit and said this constitutes first of all, they said it was a violation of 4th and 5th Amendment, that it was unreasonable search and that it was violating their rights, to not incriminate themselves. And then they also said that it was a violation of labor laws. And that ended up being the thing that mattered because what they said was that this constitutes a change in conditions of employment. You're requiring us to show our tattoos. You're requiring us to answer questions. Like this is something that you needed to bargain with the union over before you can just do it.
They went and got Barbara from HR involved. They went and pulled that one. Yeah,
Exactly.
I got it.
So they sued over that, and the judge actually said, okay, I'm going to do a preliminary injunction, and they can't be required to go in and answer any questions until the labor issues are resolved. So yeah, he was balancing. He said he's balancing the harms of stopping the investigation for a few months and letting these things continue to go on further versus the harms of possibly violating labor laws and harming the union's bargaining rights. And
wouldn't want to harm the unions now, would we? God bless them.
He came down on the side of the union for now. But ultimately, the weird thing is to me, like this is one thing I didn't get into in any of the stories because I think it's too complicated and it's really weird to me. But the way the union contract is, the county doesn't have to come to an agreement. All they have to do is come to the table. They just have to bargain. And if both sides can't agree, the county is ultimately allowed to be like, well, fuck you. We're changing the conditions of employment. And like, this is now a thing you have to do. Too bad. And they didn't do that yet. Like they literally just needed to come to the table and they didn't.
Right.
And I mean, ultimately they can get their way if they want. They just have to come to the table. So it's a very weird situation that it even transpired. Like I don't understand why the county.
So you wrote this article and these motherfuckers with the tattoos are still walking around. They're still in the office. There's been nothing done, essentially.
Oh yeah, definitely nothing done. I mean, the question is at this point, just trying to identify them, like individuals who have these tattoos. Like that's been the initial, struggle.
Speed bump, whatever. Yeah, no, and I get that. I mean, we've set ourselves up for that, right? It's like that kind of reminds me of when I was a health and safety guy, and we were trying to find out if people were vaccinated, which that's just not even get into it, but you're trying to find that out, but the privacy laws made it real tricky because you're not really supposed to ask that shit. You're not really supposed to. And then of course there are laws to change. But yeah, I mean, you can hide behind bureaucracy. We are drowning in bureaucracy, in my humble opinion, Keri. And if we got rid of half of it, I think we probably first the government would become a lot cheaper and we wouldn't even notice. Those are the two things I think. And then secondly, shit might actually get done in like maybe a somewhat timely manner. Let's crush
I
through.
love that I have somebody here who actually really follows like LA politics closely in the comments.
I
Not
love
really
it.
interested. You do seem interested. I appreciate it.
Guys, for the record, this is Keri Blakinger. Anyone that just came in, she is a real bona fide reporter. She's out on the streets. I got a lot of respect for this girl. Give her a follow. I want to get into your Mexico thing, and then we're going to watch that rap video, and we'll try and wrap it by before 9:30. At 9:30 is my time limit. Does that work for you, Keri? Is that
That
good?
works for me. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So Keri's actually been down. I'm not going to spoil it. Go watch my YouTube video with Keri and me. It's up on YouTube. 30-minute interview, our first one. But you've done some work in Mexico, talking about going to pharmaceutical stores, not even pharmaceutical stores, just drugstores, and finding some interesting stuff. Now, this article here had me. 23% of the bodies they're pulling fentanyl from, like they're pulling fentanyl residue from or whatever. Like that seems insanely high. And then it said 28% of LA County bodies. Like so, we're talking like 3 out of 10 people have fentanyl in their system when they die. That's
Yeah.
fucked.
So the interesting thing here was actually the Mexico number. The LA number is not shocking in the sense that we know there is a fentanyl
That's
crisis
not
in the US.
shocking. Jesus
No,
Christ,
it's
man.
not at this point.
That's
There's over
fucked.
100,000 fentanyl deaths last year. So, like, the idea that there's a fentanyl crisis in the US is well known.
Yeah.
But what was really interesting is that, so in Mexico, there's been a long-standing belief that culturally they don't really do opioids, which is true. Like, they didn't have like big pharma pushing painkillers on them the same way, and they've never culturally been into opioids as much. Also, the cartels actually discourage fentanyl sales on the street, like in the interior of the country. So there are generally,
Yeah.
fewer opioid users. However, there's also no way to know how many there actually are or how many overdose deaths there actually are because, Mexico
And you're talking about Mexico right now,
in
just to be
Mexico,
clear for
yeah.
everyone. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mexico doesn't routinely do toxicology testing on dead bodies. In the US, not all bodies, but it is very routine. Like if you go to the morgue and there's anything suspicious or abnormal about your death, or it's anything that's like considered not a natural death, in many counties that will guarantee that you get a toxicology test. In some counties, it's only in certain situations. But like LA County, it's something like 60 or 70% of the bodies that go to the medical examiner get a toxicology test done. In Mexico, it's like they literally don't have the ability to do it in many states at all. So in 2020, there were 68,000 opioid deaths in the US. That same year, Mexico claimed there was only 19 in the
Yeah, I
entire
saw
country.
that. 19. That's cute.
In a country of 126 million.
Such a
So,
weird thing for them to lie about. Like why
well,
wouldn't they play
it's
that
not a
up?
lie. It's that they weren't testing. Now, why they weren't testing
All right,
is
okay.
another question. Like, is this a lack of resources? Is this because the morgues are so backed up because of all the cartel-related deaths? Or is this just because they willfully do not want to know how many opioid deaths there are? Because
Because the cartel's telling them don't count how many opioid deaths there
no, it's
are,
not just
because
the
that'll be
cartel, it's
bad
AMLO.
marketing.
The president keeps claiming that they don't have a fentanyl problem. So he, if he had numbers, then he couldn't say that, right?
True.
So yeah, they so they, for this story that we were writing, it's because there was the medical examiner in one state in Mexico, the state that includes Tijuana, started doing testing on bodies in one city, Mexicali, and found that in that city, 23% of all bodies that went to the morgue over the course of a year came up positive for fentanyl. And
That's wild.
yeah,
It just seems so wild to me.
And it's partly wild because it's so close to the numbers for LA, 28% in LA, right? And, for if Mexico theoretically doesn't have a fentanyl problem, but 23% of people that wind up in the morgue have fentanyl in their systems, and that number is that close to the 28% we see in LA, then we might, reasonably surmise that at least in the northwestern part of Mexico where this study occurred, fentanyl use seems to be a lot higher than previously understood.
What do you think about when you hear someone say something like California is turning into a third world country? Would you like, do you fundamentally agree with that, or do you think that's like overkill? Do you think all of the United States, maybe we should just say America is turning into a third world country?
I mean, it depends what your metrics are. By some metrics, like, yeah, I mean, by some metrics, clearly not. Although I think that's a really odd thing to say about California. I mean, I feel like you can make a better case for that in Texas, honestly.
Texas.
I
No
mean,
shit.
I say this as someone, I lived there for 7 years. I love Texas. I just got back. I don't love things the leadership has done, but,
Sure. Sure.
try not to take any political sides there as a journalist, but I mean,
I know, I
I
could see you
think
fighting with it, and I gotta learn from you to start doing that. Although my whole shtick is I show my side very clearly. So it's like either side. I think when you go too far in either fucking direction, you're in big trouble. And Texas went the one way. But I think people say that about Cali because they hear about Skid Row. They see, and I mean, you're talking about people that are in, these nice little defined echo chambers we've built for ourselves with the customized bliss and the, articles straight to our phone, spoon fed by the algorithm, but they see California and they see articles like there's this recycled article going around I saw again today about how they made it's like, oh, murder's legal in California now, and robbery and battery's legal and all this shit. And I look it up and like it's from months ago, first of all, and nothing's, I don't know. It's a
it's
tricky
different.
landscape. It's a tricky
No,
landscape to
it's definitely
navigate.
not true. Um,
Yeah. What is that from? Can I
no,
ask you a quick tangent? What the fuck did that come from? Why did like, and I've heard that a few times about, they said that they what is it, decriminalized a bunch of shit. I know that there was this doomsday for this one place in America. It wasn't even California. It was I can't remember. It was like a Midwest state, but they were saying it was going to be the purge. They were calling it the purge bill. Nothing fucking
oh,
happened. Nothing fucking happened. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
wasn't that
Nothing.
a bail reform thing?
I don't even. Yes, it was
Don't they
bail. There
like
was
losing their
bail.
minds about bail reform?
Bail
I
was
mean,
involved in it. Yeah, it was
this has just
bail.
become a very highly politicized issue, and it's wild how interested some people are in ensuring that people
It
stay
was what it
incarcerated
was.
when they're not even found guilty. It's so wild to me, like people that want to act as if they're taking the side of patriots, but are actually
Locking up,
advocating for something that, like, for an assumption of guilt,
locking up
which
their
is
own
just so
people.
weird. Yeah,
It's like it's that whole thing about innocent until proven guilty. That shit just is not the way it is anymore. It
yeah,
is
that's
completely
functionally
the other
not
way
true.
around. It is completely the other way around. Um,
Um, Did
sorry,
you see some
I
other
totally went
news
off
out of,
topic there, Carrie.
there was some other really wild news out of Texas this week. Did you see the Houston Chronicle yesterday posted a story about a leaked email to DPS telling them, like, DPS is state troopers, telling them
Right.
that if they had, or maybe it was an email from DPS complaining about orders they'd received.
Push children into the Rio Grande and
Yeah.
deny
Yep.
water to
Yeah.
immigrants.
Isn't that
Jesus
crazy?
fucking
So when
Christ.
migrants are coming up from
Bro.
Mexico, DPS
What
has
the
been ordered
fuck?
to push children back into the water. And the water, by the ways,
I
has like
shouldn't laugh, but what
barrels.
can you do?
No,
What
I
can you
know, but the
fucking
water
do?
has barrels and buoys in it that are wrapped in razor wire. Like they have submerged buoys of razor wire.
Man, if you're a person that could push a child back into that water, you are a fucking piece of shit. But I mean, sorry, you're not even a piece of shit. You are a good German, I believe is the right phrase to say there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I get it. You think you're doing something good. Bro, look at yourself. Look down at yourself, pushing this child into the water. Is that who you want to be, man or woman? You know what I'm saying?
I think DPS was actually complaining in response to that email that they
Thank
did
fucking
something right.
God.
I forget.
Thank God. Like, can we objection, Your Honor? I don't want to actually push children into water. If I don't have to, that'd be great. I mean, okay, that's a big. You know what's crazy? I didn't hear about this. I didn't see this. No one. This is interesting to me. This might have to get into the
It's a
update
crazy
tomorrow
story.
morning. Yeah, yeah, I think so. God bless. What is the DPS? Is that, are those aren't necessarily cops. Those are more like
No, they're
What is
cops.
it?
That's
They're
state troopers.
cops? Okay, they're
That's
state
cops.
troopers.
That's
Okay,
state police. Yeah.
gotcha.
So, Abbott has treated that as his sort of, well, I've heard them called stormtroopers frequently, because they've sort of been treated like Abbott's personal military at times.
Oh
He
yeah, it's
since then,
Greg. Yeah, Greg Abbott. I wish the tree would have fallen on him the full way, just for the record. Like, sorry, I forgot who Texas is dealing with, but yeah, that guy sucks.
I
Fuck that
have
guy.
to I have to not comment on that.
No comment from Keri, guys. Take me down the Hassan Piker Road. I'll actually, Hassan, hit me up, Hassan, by the way. We got a lot to talk about. But yeah, I think we can all align on that, except Keri. She doesn't agree with that. Um,
I cannot take an opinion on that. I do think
no,
it's
I would
fucked
never
up
ask you
how
to.
I do think it's sort of like widely understood to be kind of fucked up how he then enacted, he then pushed for tort reform so that nobody else could get the kind of settlement that he got on that case. I don't know if you know that. You should look
I
up his
actually,
history of
I
tort
did,
reform.
I did
Yeah.
actually know that. Yeah, it's disgusting. I hate them. I'm gonna ask you a random question that someone just got, and then we're gonna watch this rap video. What do you think of the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva and Mandela effects? Was it the Berenstein Bears when you were a kid, Keri? You know it
Uh,
was the Berenstein Bears. You know damn well it was the Berenstein with an E. God damn it! I
my
I
parents said
remember.
it Bernstein, but like, I mean,
Oh, okay.
but like there
Bernstein.
wasn't like it's not like there
Bernstein.
was.
That's still steam. That's still the E.
Yeah, there wasn't. I mean, there wasn't like internet then. Like, I mean, I was born in '84, so it's not like you could just Google how to pronounce it.
Maybe we're all just maybe we're all just maybe we all thought they were
This
the
is
Steens and they were the
probably
Stains.
solvable by Google.
It's yeah, to think about it. It's funny how Google was supposed to solve all these problems, but really it's only created a lot more. That's an interesting take actually. We do
No, I don't think
groundbreaking
it's.
work.
I don't think it has. I think it makes it really easy to win bar arguments. How else would you win an argument in a bar?
Yeah. I mean, really specific things, sure, but people don't even know shit anymore. Like I feel like our vocabulary, everything's going as far as like, you know, people used to actually memorize how to spell stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like think about that. I mean, you're a journalist. I'm sure you have some words memorized, as do I. But like back in the day, my girlfriend just said she can't spell. She's a health physicist. You know what I'm saying? So like,
I mean, I don't know. In some ways, it's like maybe perfect spelling is not the best use of our brain power. I mean, like,
okay,
I don't
okay,
know.
okay. I like that. I kind of dig that. But
Um,
shit.
but I do think I think one of the really difficult things about this era of the internet is that people seem to have lost the ability to discern like what is true or what is reliable or, how to spot actual fake news.
Well, and
And that
like,
was not as much of an issue in like pre-internet days. Like you knew the shit on Coast to Coast AM was kind of unhinged. Like you knew that like stuff in the encyclopedia like might omit certain things, but like the things that were in it were like
sure.
typically going to be true.
Yeah. Yeah, true. I mean, is it a lie if I just leave out a bunch of facts? I mean, I've always, that's an
I mean, I
argument
think
that I'll have
at
with
this
Britt
point
later.
they'll kind of understand that history books over the years have like have omitted certain things in some really historically problematic ways, but even that isn't, that we're not talking like wholesale fabrication like Pizzagate or some shit.
I mean, that whole shit is messy. I did watch. I watched that Joe Rogan. Remember when Jones went on the Joe Rogan show the very first time, right before it was completely off the fucking rails? But I remember he talks about that and like, what's that Joe Rogan's guy's name? Jamie. I mean, like, this is what it is, right? You are so
So I lived in
very
Austin for a little while, right? Which is where Alex
when he
Jones is
went.
based.
Oh, no shit,
So
eh? Did you ever meet Alex Jones?
sometimes there was an Alex Jones van, okay, and it would like drive around
No
like
way.
blasting crazy shit, just crazy shit. Like I don't even know how
Like straight up out of Richard Linklater's that movie Scanner Darkly, where he's going around like with a megaphone. Like it's literally that.
oh
Like
yeah,
straight up, that was real. He did that
yeah,
shit. That's
yes.
fucking insane.
And occasionally you would like have this crazy fucking van drive by you and you'd be like, what is, oh, right, it's
Oh,
that.
there we go. Thank you, Alex. Hey, man, it's scary how many half little things buried within the craziness turned out to be true. I will say that, but that man knew how to spin a fine tale. I tell you, he really went for it with the creativity on a lot of that stuff. We try and keep it a little more grounded here. But I will say this: I was shocked when I listened on the Rogan podcast about how much stuff he said that they did verify, like stuff that sounds fucking absurd, but it's like there is a record of it happening. But the danger is when you start extrapolating the threads of one event occurring over here and this event over here, and then you're like, oh, yeah, definitely tied in. When really, we live in a fucking chaotic universe. Should we watch this terrible rap video from a Toronto jail
I'm,
now, Keri?
I'm, yeah, I'm scared. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, wait. Sorry, guys. Just a second. I failed. Here we go. Okay, so just a little preamble for y'all. Keri knows what this is. About a month ago, right when it was the day we did our first interview, and I'm not gonna lie, Keri, I was nervous the first time, so I completely forgot to add this in. So there's a Toronto murderer. He's a gang member that killed a guy who wasn't even a gang member. It actually really pisses me off, to get serious for a second. This guy brags about the guy he killed in this rap video that he made in the Toronto prison. And it has fucking 1.2 million views on YouTube. My video gets censored for suggesting Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. But this fucking video has one. Anyways, I'm also going to post this video on YouTube too. So, God, I love you, YouTube, and the almighty algorithm. But this is what we're jumping into here, guys. And yeah, Keri, without further ado, here's the worst rap video you've ever seen. So this was made for anyone just signing in. This was in jail. Obviously, that's not in jail, but like, yeah, right there. Bah.
Ask yourself why you want me in the past. And ask yourself why you ain't right for that. I think these niggas here really feel like that. Listen, I was 18 when I bought a gun. 22 when I shot your son.
Okay. All right. Let's unpack that for a second. I just realized he dropped some. I don't know if we can watch much more of that because my live will get banned.
Yeah.
That's trash bars, first of all, bro. I'm speaking right to you, top five. You're trash. Your bars are garbage. You're bragging about killing a civilian, which is not gangster. Keri, do you have anything to say?
So this
How do you
is,
think he got the phone in? How do you generally get a phone into prison?
it varies based on the prison. Sometimes, some places it's a lot of drone drops. Some places it's staff smuggling it in. Some places there's like low security trustees or something that can go out more freely and get these things. So it varies a lot. But I was actually, this is totally not the most important thing, but how is he in such a clean cell? All the cells in American prisons are so fucking disgusting. I actually just posted
Interesting.
a video. One of my last 2 or 3 videos was contraband cell phone footage from inside a prison of a guy that Amy knows him actually, of a guy that had built a little wall out of green soaps that he called his Great Wall of China, and he had this whole wall in his cell to stop the sewage water that was dripping down the walls from getting to his bed. And you know, like this whole cell though, not just that little, he called it his Great Wall of China, not just his Great Wall of China, but like the whole cell is so fucking disgusting. And that cell is so goddamn clean in that video.
So you know what? Let's go back.
Y'all prisons are a lot nicer. That's my takeaway.
They definitely are, but it's also, I think he's like in a hallway or something, right? Is that like do you think that's his cell or is that?
Oh, it could be.
I don't know, actually. No, I see the sink.
Quite,
no, I think you're right. It is his cell.
It is quite clean though.
Lesson in bench pressing, bro. Come on, you're actually trash. You're at 1.2 million views, YouTube. Come on. All right, Keri. This was a blast. I had so much fun talking to you about all this important shit. And listen, guys, I know it's a change of tempo. We had a guy on who looked like, earlier we were talking to a guy who looked like he was the rejected member of the Island Boys. He didn't like that when I told him that either. But we actually became friends. But I mean, that's what we were dealing with a little earlier. So this was a change in tempo for the fans, and I'm
Okay.
glad y'all stuck it out. We got some people here. I mean, everyone here is interested in what's going on, and they want to know what's going on. But some are like this got heavy. This is real. This is real reporting. This is a real reporter, Keri Blakinger. Follow her. Keri, you got anything you want to add?
No, but we can do this again. And
Love it.
pragmatically, sorry, I am gonna go after this because I have work to do.
Let's go. You go get on those streets, Keri, and you stay safe. Thanks
All
again.
right, I'll see you. Bye.
Take care. All right, guys. That was fucking great. I know I think I lost a couple followers there, but you know what? Straight up, guys, I'm gonna address it again. I'm gonna say it as clear as I can. I am not a fucking Republican. And if you're here because you think I'm a Republican, I know none of y'all here. There's only these are the diehards. I know if there's that one person in here that thinks I'm a Republican, like I'm not. And I know it's funny. It's funny because I know it's not you guys that have to convince of that. It's the fucking liberals that fucking can't swallow. Like they can't swallow. They hear me say one thing and they're like, "You're a Trump supporter." It's like, you fucking blind idiot. Like, I know it'd be easier if you could just categorize me and shuffle me away, but no, that's not what we are here. And Keri, she's a badass, man. I don't agree with everything she says, and I don't think she agrees with everything. I think if we got into that Alex Jones topic a little more, that would have been an interesting topic, and maybe we could go there on the next one. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's what we're doing here, fam. That's what we're doing here. We are the bridge. I'm going to keep saying it. It's my new thing. It's the bridge. You know what I'm saying? Fuck. That was great, man. That was great. And if I'm being real with y'all, you got to look at bigger picture stuff too. And Keri, she can teach us a lot. She's out there doing actual journalism. And I mean, we've done our fair share now. We've been on the streets and this and that. But I mean, I think from what I just saw, every article we just looked at, she wrote this week. Friend of the show. We love you, Keri. Yeah, I dig it. And I mean, this is the only way we can fix the divide is if we have these conversations and, you know, someone pops up and it's like, oh, that doesn't fit the prescribed, you know, the prescribed template for what, you know, yeah, good. Embrace that shit, bro. All right, I'm done. I've talked a lot today. Thank you, y'all, for riding with me. Thank you for all y'all. Yeah, for real, she is, Shane. For real. Thank you for all y'all for everything, joining the Discord. Our Discord has over 600 people now, so get in on it if you ain't already. And that's one of the worst rap videos I've ever seen. That was trash. Like, what a fucking. Anyways, I don't even want to talk about them, but yeah, man, we got a lot on the go. I actually have a couple big announcements coming up too. More collaborations, a couple podcasts I think we're going to be going on. We are just getting started. You know what I'm saying? And what we've built already is fucking awesome. This is the ground floor. This is the fucking ground floor. All right. Thanks again, y'all. Thank you, Keri. I'm going to go throw the stick for Jack. I will. Take care. Y'all have a good night. Stay safe.